Welcome aboard, folks. I'm Stephen Malkowicz, your captain on this adventure called Ship of Fools. I'm a fool. Lucky for you, I'm not sailing solo. Join me and a boatload of people, all just trying to make sense of this crazy world. It's a fabulous mess, and you're invited. Okay, I'd like to welcome Troy Van Vliet to the Ship of Fools podcast here, where wit meets wisdom. I'd like to thank you for coming, number one. Number two, the title of this episode here is Building Legacy and the Birth of St. John Paul II Academy. And it is, I don't know if there's another instance where a school has been built in the Lower Mainland, non-secular, I'll say first. You know, there's public schools that are built all the time, but to build a Catholic school in these times, it's been on the table for a long time.
Yep.
And I wanted to talk to you about that and the trials and tribulations of going through that. You were the driving force behind this.
I think it's safe to say, yeah.
Yeah. And for the first time, my wife and we got to see the inside of the school. We'd driven by it a number of times, saw the signs in the ground for quite a while, and I know it took a long time. Yeah. But start us off, first of all, before we get into the discussion about, you know, the school and how instrumental you were in putting the team together and actually seeing it come to life. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about Troy, about your background, your family background, your roots, your early influences, and the like, so that we can start.
Yeah. Okay. Born here in Surrey Memorial Hospital, actually, which is rare from what I find the more you talk to people from my era anyway. Grew up started in North Delta and then ended up in South Surrey and White Rock when I was in grade 4. And then lived there whole time, went to Ray Shepherd Elementary, and then commuted all the way to St. Thomas More in Burnaby for high school, and then on to UBC, and played football at UBC, was drafted for the Lions in 91, and didn't play. I just played in one training camp, and then I was released and brought back on the practice roster, but I already started a career. I had started working and stuff already, so it wasn't something that really fit in. You know, I was making more money doing in my career than I was playing football, so I was like, okay, well, it's time to hang up the cleats, so to speak. And I worked in direct sales and grew up in the construction business, so that's what I kind of fell back into, and probably, 20 years ago or something like that. So a builder of luxury homes, and did some developing in luxury homes as well. Meantime, my wife and I had kids later in life. I think we were 38 or 39 when we started having kids, so we started later. And I lived in Vancouver for a while, and then moved back out to South Surrey, White Rock. So one of the reasons why we moved back out to South Surrey was because my wife's sister was a longtime teacher and vice principal at Star of the Sea Elementary School, which is a Catholic elementary school in part of the parish there. And it's an incredible school, absolutely wonderful school. And my youngest daughter, we have two daughters. My youngest daughter has Down syndrome. And so it was a natural fit. We wanted her to go with, where it felt literally like we were dropping our kids off at a family member's home. It's just, this school's got an absolutely incredible reputation. But really early on, you start thinking about, well, where are your kids going to go to high school? Even after kindergarten, you're thinking, okay, this is an incredible school. This is awesome. But what's the next stage? And especially if you've got a child with special needs, because you're trying to map out their whole life, because it's not something where you just say, okay, you're out of high school, you're going to university, and away you go, fly away. You're going to be involved in one form or another through their whole lives. So So after asking that question, where are they going to go to high school? Because Holy Cross is the Catholic high school in Surrey.
Yes.
And that's on the North Surrey. And Vancouver's got 4 Catholic high schools. There's Notre Dame, Little Flower Academy, Vancouver College, and St. Patrick's. And now, just to put it in context, Vancouver's got about 50 to 55,000 kids K-12 in all sectors. And Surrey has 85,000 kids K-12. So we at the time had 1 Catholic high school, and Vancouver had 4. So we were like, we're way behind here in Surrey. So one of the things that the Archdiocese, or the Catholic Church, I should say, is really good at is they don't think in terms of 5 years or 10 years. They think in terms of hundreds of years. They're looking ahead. So they're good at acquiring land when it's cheap and thinking out, much further out. So they had acquired land in South Surrey for a school, actually a long time ago, about 30-something years ago. And it turns out that property was deemed to couldn't put a school on it because it was going to be the community plan showed it was going to be cut in half by a road, so it wasn't going to make sense, or it wasn't going to work. So about 15 years ago, they bought another property. Well, maybe a little longer than that, but about 15, they bought another property where our school is today. But there was no plans of putting a school on in terms of they bought the land for it, but money's tight. And the old way that the schools used to get built, the high schools, the elementary schools are attached to a parish. So the parish will fund the elementary schools. But the high schools, you'll get surrounding parishes to all chip into one high school. Surrey had already did that for Holy Cross. And they're like, yeah, we're spread thin already. We don't want to do another high school. So it was never going to happen. So we kind of had to reinvent the wheel, by borrowing some financing ideas from the secular world. What we did is we've asked the parents, because it's been a parent-led initiative from day one, we asked the parents to cough up $25,000 each as basically a loan to the school. And then when their son or daughter, their youngest, finishes high school, then we get the $25,000 back. And then the new families would come in and do the same thing. So in the meantime, that gave us a bunch of seed capital right away to start working with. And the Archdiocese had the land, and they were open to a new financial idea because the old program, we were never going to see a school here. So it's been tried many a times, but they couldn't get the finances together for it. So with the Archdiocese already owning the land, and then they kicked in some money, and then we had some seed money coming in. Then we managed to put it together, and it's been like a 12-year program for me. So
what was it like for you this September?
Oh, that was a big, yeah. Well, you know what? It's funny. There was so much happening, just trying to get we literally had to delay the opening by a day just because we were still running around getting things going. We're like, we need that extra day. So we started a day later than other schools did. Yeah. And it was a massive, it felt so rewarding. But, I'd been at the school all through construction, laying out the program, going through the plans, and,
You were Mr. Everything. That was my impression, that you were Mr. Everything there. There was...
We set up a separate foundation for the school. So it's different because the Vancouver Archdiocese owns the land.
Yes.
And so we set up a foundation that actually was set up to build the school and collect all the money. So the Archdiocese gave some money to the foundation. We had money coming in, those $25,000 enrollment deposits coming into the foundation, and that's where the original money was generated. And then we have a separate society that is in charge of education. So technically they're a tenant. So we lease out we have a sublease for the society, which we licensed the name St. John Paul II Academy to. So they run the school. They're in charge of education. So the foundation is sort of the business arm of the school. and does the marketing. It raises all the money, raises all the capital, and oversees construction, oversees the facility and running of the facility too. Because we have other tenants as well, because we lease out or rent out, I should say, the facility to other groups that come in as well.
Was there was there any provincial government involvement in this? The Department of Education?
Yeah, they got in the way.
Okay.
They got. What I mean by that, when you're dealing with, Department of Fisheries, things like that, because there was deemed to be a Class C ditch and, or streams. And it's just all of these things have to be evaluated. And, are they fish bearing, or are they, everything's fish bearing. Every waterway is fish bearing now, because it doesn't necessarily mean there's fish in the ditch, but
It could be.
But there's nutrients or whatever coming through the ditches and everything, that end up in the waterways where fish are. Department of Highways, things like that, because we had to go just about two kilometers down 24th Avenue to do a temporary sewer hookup for the school, because there is no sewer. Mm-hmm. So the one thing that the city of Surrey granted us, which they wouldn't do for any kind of other development other than a hospital, is a temporary sewer hookup, because there are no there's no sanitary connections where we are. So we had to bring in water, we had to bring in sewer, and it's all temporary. So that was like a $2 million deal. When the sewer eventually does come, we have to pay to hook up to that as well. So there's a lot of things that you got to pay for that a school like ours is a massive community benefit. Mm-hmm. It's zero tax dollars were spent on it. And in fact, once you give the setbacks, we started out with about 9.5 acres roughly. And once you do the road dedications, so we had to put roads on all four sides of our property too. So you do the road dedication. So you have to give back land for the roads to the city. On all four sides, and then you got to build the roads, and you've got to pave them. You got to put in the city sidewalks. You got to put in the city street lamps. You got to put in the city traffic lights, the city crosswalks, the bus stops, and then the sewer connection. So we spent over $13 million just on that, plus 2 acres of land that we gave back at the tune of $3 million an acre. So we're approaching $20 million in community benefits that you just give back to the city. So, and then a lot of people don't know how we're an independent school. We're not a private school. Mm-hmm. So an independent school means you get some government funding for operations, for teacher salaries, and it's 50% of what it operates. So what they do is they'll go to a local school in the area, or they take an average of the schools in the area, and they figure out, okay, it costs roughly, if it's $10,000 per student to get a kid's education per year, then the government will give 50% to a school like ours. So we would get $5,000 per student for operating. So we got to come up with the other 5, and then we can't operate at a higher level though. We can't say operate at $13,000. We have to operate at the same level per student. So, and that's audited every year. And so once that's determined that you can be an independent school, now we could build the school. We had to pay for all of the infrastructure, so all the capital costs we got to pay for, and all the repairs and everything going forward after that. So the net benefit to the province or to the taxpayer is massive with all these independent schools that are across. Now, in just the Catholic school system alone, there's 50 Catholic schools in the Lower Mainland here. So we save the taxpayer hundreds of millions. It's probably in the billions if you take into all the infrastructure, because our project just itself is a $130 million project. So.
What backstopped this from a financial perspective?
We had enough equity. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and in the first few years, the Archdiocese is going to step up to backstop it. But then it's got to run on its own. It's a separate entity. So you really taking this on, and I don't want to put words into your mouth, you have to micromanage it. Like you have to really
get into
Yeah.
the minutia of every little tiny detail, because when you're doing a project this big, it's very easy. I don't have to tell you this. You already know that when you're building stuff,
Yeah.
things happen.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. But believe it or not, the construction part is the easy part because I do that every day.
Yeah.
So that part was the easy part, but it's the, there's problems that come up with that and everything like that. But sort of, as I said before, reinventing the wheel and coming up with a financial plan. And then you got to sell that. Like the people that you think would be on your side for a project like this, there is so much pushback. You are pushing a boulder uphill the whole way. It's actually really quite amazing. So if you don't have that fire in the belly to make it happen, it's not going to happen. Like you've got to be persistent. There's been many evenings or nights where I've woken up going, "What the heck did I do? Like, why am I doing this?" And it's that, for me, it was especially my youngest daughter, Annika, and my older daughter, Taylor. It's the two of them. It starts with that passion for your kids. You want to see them taken care of. I wanted to see especially my younger daughter, to be able to stick with her cohort from start of the sea and move all the way through because she had those friends that knew her and what have you. And so we really wanted that. And I think it takes something like that. It takes a parent, that wants to do something for their kids, that it initiates that. But then it's soon after that, you realize like there's going to be tens of thousands of kids that actually benefit from this project.
So what's the student population now? Like what?
As of right now, today, I think there's 142.
Okay.
So, and we'll probably add another 100 or so for next year. So we'll grow each year. So we're 8 to 12. So we started in 2017 and at Star of the Sea in a little old elementary school. We converted it so that we could start classes right away. And so in this past September was the first year that we got to open up at the new campus. So
I would imagine that you've had, and I don't know because my kids are all the youngest is, what's Megan, 28?
Changes every year.
It does, yeah. I'm trying to figure it out. I should remember that. But there must be a lot. There's got to be a lot of interest.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
It was a tough sell in the old elementary school because the building, as much as like with Catholic education, we created this incredible culture at our school, and kids were getting this awesome education. We had the best student-to-teacher ratio probably in the province. Sometimes there were 6 kids in a class, in a science class. So. And all of our kids they've all gotten into the top universities. The number one pick that they chose to university, everybody's gotten in, so they've gotten incredible education with a faith-based grounding, and everything. But it's a tough sell when the building is this old little elementary school. And I even had that conversation with my oldest daughter. She's like, well, I wouldn't mind going to a real school, a real high school. And it's like, you had to have the tough one. It's like, well, what does that actually mean? There was 600 students at my high school. Is that a real high school? Or does it need to be 1,000? Or does it need to be 2,000? Like, what is a real high school? Is it something that you see on TV? Is that what you're comparing it to? So turns out, I think for both my daughters, but my oldest daughter as well, is the best thing that could have ever happened to her is going to this little school where she got all the attention in the world and she got a great education. But the building does matter.
Yeah.
So when we opened the new building, there was so much anticipation, but people just wouldn't believe it until they could actually walk into it. And then it's a tough sell when you're selling people a building that they can't walk into because nobody had seen it up until this September 1. So if you're signing up for a grade A and something, you're thinking well, I think it's going to be a cool school. I think it's going to be a great building, based on the 3D imaging and all that kind of stuff that we did. And so we had an open house barbecue in the first week, and just to get the parents to come through because they'd never been in, and we ended up with 1,000 people there that first open house barbecue, and it was just something we threw out there. So the interest was really high. And then we had at our open house a couple of weeks ago, we had over another 900 people that are looking to sign their kids up. So,
well, I'll tell this little story, this brief story. I used to be the publisher of the newspaper here in Surrey for a number of years, quite a while ago. And when my kids were young, we lived in Cloverdale, and at the time they were building a new school, and at the time I knew the superintendent of school very well, and both of the kids went to George Greenaway in Cloverdale, and there was some issues going on, and that I got involved with at the school, and they weren't good. And I went, and I tell this story openly because I was
just with the school, or
it was issues with something that was going on at the school.
Yeah,
and I walked in and I wanted to talk to the principal right away, and I grew up in a family where my mother used to enjoy going to parent-teacher interviews because she wanted to find out what her son did wrong, and I hated them. And my mother, and she dragged my dad, and they went to every single one of them, and they did that with all my sisters as well too. But I was always been involved in the kids' education. And I don't ever throw my weight around by saying what I do, or but I did at that time. And then they made a phone call, and that's how I met the guy. The superintendent of school's name was Fred Ranahan, and I didn't see the principal. I saw the vice principal, and I ended up going directly to Fred's office, to the superintendent's office. And we had a very lengthy discussion. We became very good friends too, because I was questioning whether or not I wanted to put my children in private school. I didn't know what private school, but I wasn't happy with the way things were going. And this is very early elementary. And he subtly, he's a very educated man, and he subtly explained to me that the difference between private and public was you. And I went, well, what do you mean by that? And he goes, in private, there's more of you and parents that care, that really care about the education that their children are getting. And if you really care, the public will work for you, but you've got to be in there doing it all the time. I had no problem doing that. Okay, I didn't, but we ended up moving back to Winnipeg at the time, and long story, but I never forgot that. And I look at it. I don't know how I would react now if my children. I probably would put them in a private school. It'd probably be a Catholic school. It might, these schools have no problem getting students. They're full, and if that says something about the public school, what's happening in the public school, I can't say. We have grandchildren now, and all we kind of hear right now, they're up in Kelowna. It's through hearsay. It's like, you get little tidbits, and you don't want to be an overbearing grandparent. Like you don't, going in and because you didn't want like that. Like you don't want somebody coming and telling you how to bring it. It doesn't go over very well. But I look at things, and I'm not an old fogey kind of guy. There's some basics though that were ingrained in me, and I have no problem. Fear was a motivating factor. It was for a young boy. And I'm, Sister Teresa had no problem hitting me with the yardstick. I can laugh about it now, but you got my attention.
No, for sure.
It worked, and I'm not saying that that's all right. I'm saying that fear was a motivating, especially for young boys.
It was.
It's you have my attention now.
Yes. I had stories like that even at St. Thomas More. It was known. It went through some challenges, both St. Thomas More and Vancouver College, with how boys were treated lately, and not how boys were treated in the past, not now, but these allegations and stuff have come up recently. Some of them were, the types of discipline. And, I can say, having gone through it, I didn't need to be really disciplined a whole bunch, but Some of the guys that did, I look and I'm like, you had it coming.
Yes.
Like,
what were you thinking?
Why are you consistently doing that? And I guess you're not getting enough attention at home. I don't know what it is, but wow. But getting back to what you were saying about the public system right now, there's a lot of, I don't mind just saying it. There's a lot of questionable stuff that's happening in the public system. The SOGI program.
Would it be fair? Would it be fair to say there's a line between teaching and indoctrination, and I believe
in truth.
Yeah, and
objective truth.
Yeah, and I because I never until I've been fortunate that I had on the podcast quite a while ago a fellow who is he's married to a rock icon, but he actually was friends with my grade 10 teacher who in Winnipeg.
Oh, okay.
And my grade 10 teacher in Winnipeg had a lot of influence on me, the direction that I went in, especially in university. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to reconnect with him. It's been a long time. Yeah. But I think about my experience in school, in grade school, and it seemed to be a lot. It was teaching. Mm-hmm. It was teaching, and you have to learn to learn. Okay, there wasn't, there didn't, the indoctrination part of things never, and maybe I'm just a dummy. Maybe it was there and I didn't see it. I wasn't paying attention, but it wasn't there. It wasn't. And go ahead.
Well, indoctrination of what? I mean, I've got my own ideas of it.
I appreciate that everyone's different. Yeah. I get that. I understand that. But there's certain things that I'll say this right now, that like a man is a man, a woman is a woman.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, that's just the way it is. I don't, but, and I'm being somewhat facetious when I say this, but and I don't, a lot of things get sensationalized but you're not a cat, you're not, you're not a dog.
Yeah.
You're a boy,
and you don't have to be a cat to know that you're not a cat.
Yeah, and so I've never, and I don't know how I would react if I have to be careful when I say this, because I don't have direct involvement in that system right now. Yeah. But the things that we hear on the periphery, and just with our own grandkids, I'll say to Tricia, I'm not okay with that.
Yeah.
And then you bring it up and you say, okay, well, are you, to our son-in-law, are you okay with? Well, I don't want to make waves.
Nobody wants to make waves. Yeah, nobody wants to be called a homophobe or a bigot, or nobody wants to be called that. And those terms get thrown around way too loosely and all of a sudden somebody gets called out on it, and they get called out on it in the papers, or they get called out on it on social media, they get called out, and everybody's terrified of it. And to be quite honest, so now there's that silent majority out there that doesn't agree with it, but they don't want to be the one that stirs it up. Mm-hmm. So quite frankly, neither do I. I'm not a homophobe. I'm not a bigot. I do agree with different lifestyles. That's me. Mm-hmm. But I don't like having somebody else's lifestyle jammed down my throat, or let alone my kid's throat either. Mm-hmm. And being taught lies, which, girls can be boys, boys can be girls, because they can't. Mm-hmm. And then to me, a social construct is what we wear, whether or not we wear makeup, that kind of stuff, or whatever. Do whatever you want. Dress however you want. That's right. I couldn't care less about something like that. That's totally up to you. But to have to be, to force your kids to be exposed to that and say this, you could be I'm a boy. It's like, well, how do you know? Well, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? And then it's all of a sudden, well, no, it isn't. And then you get, there's all the complex about women males going into female locker rooms and bathrooms and all kinds of stuff like that. There was a reason why we had that way before, and it worked. And now we're just trying to mess with it, and we're confusing kids. We're confusing them.
Yeah.
So, and that program got through or the BC legislature under the guise of anti-bullying. So everybody voted for it under Christy Clark's Liberals, just under the guise of anti-bullying. So everybody's like, oh, anti-bullying, well, that's a good thing. Yep, sure. Okay, we'll sign off on that. That's great. And now it's in the schools. It's not part of the BC curriculum, but it depends on who your teachers are. So those programs there are available for any teacher that wants to teach it throughout the school year. So, and
the thing is though that I mean this, that in my experience, and this is, we're talking a number of years ago, a lot of I always went, because I was taught to go to parent teacher interviews. Yeah. I would meet the teachers. Yeah. Like I met all the teachers. Yep. Always went. Always went, and was involved. I don't know if a lot do. Like it's my father used to say this when my father coached hockey before I was even of age, because he played hockey all his life. And he used to say, when I started coaching, he said, the first thing you do is you have a meeting with the parents and you tell them that you're not a babysitting service. Okay. That your child's playing this sport here and they're looking for you when they're 8 years old out on the ice or 9 years old out on the ice. They're looking to see if mom and dad are there. Okay. Yeah. That's a big deal. Yeah. And
it's a great point.
It is a good point. And school I looked upon as is analogous to that too. I'm not just dropping you off, or you're just not going off to school and then I forget about you. I'm not. Yeah. I'm involved. Yeah. If there's stuff going on at school, if somebody's going, and I was hyper sensitive to it too. I could tell by, the way my son might be acting or something going on. What's going on? What's going on? Well, if you don't tell, I'm going to go see the principal. Yeah. I'm going to go see your teacher. That's, and I don't believe that everyone is like that. Okay. Yep. And I don't necessarily believe that everyone should have to be like that to ensure a good education for their child. Yeah. I really, I'm a big believer. The other thing I'm a big believer in is, I'm not suggesting that a good education can solve a lot of our problems, but it can go a long way towards it.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Well, when I'd like to think when we were kids, or when my parents were kids, the school was, and I like to think our school is like this right now too, it was more of an extension of the family and the church. And you had like-minded people, like-minded parents, all, so when you got in trouble at school, it was coming at home too.
Oh yeah.
And
that was a given.
Today, that's a little bit flip-flopped. Now my kid can do no wrong, and I'm not involved in the school, as you just said. I'm not involved at all. And so it's kind of like this babysitting. We just hope they get taught some good stuff at school so that they're ready to go to, the next level in education, what have you. And I agree with you. Parents aren't involved, and they need to be involved. In our school, we have you have to do a minimum of 40 participation hours. Not for the financial benefit to the school, although that helps. But it's to have your kids see you involved. Just like you said, the 8-year-old seeing the kid, seeing the parent in the stands. That's huge, and that's what builds a community. Yeah. And our school is a community, and you come in and you become part of our community. We don't adapt to yours.
Yeah.
And we got a good thing going. We want to keep it going that way. Everybody's welcome. So it's not just Catholics go to our school. We have people of all different faiths. But everybody that comes know they're buying into what we're selling. This is what we do here. So it's very clear and upfront. And so people that aren't of the same faith that are coming, they know what they're getting into. And they want that. So, and it's the same thing. I'll point this out as well, because you had also said, parents that care will send their kids to school like this, and they can't always afford to. And early on, we vowed that we would not be turning families away for financial reasons. If they want to come to the school, if they fit in the school, they might get turned away for other reasons.
Yeah.
But for financial reasons, that won't be it. So we've got a really strong bursary program so that if families need, some help, they might need. We're proud to say we've got some families that aren't paying anything, in our school because they need it. They need the help. They really want to go to the school. They're part of the community. And so we're not an elitist school in that regard because we've got families of all sectors that come. So
you said Star of the Sea, but what was the this is, I'm not going to say it's for you're a community figure now. You're known in the community for you actually said that you were going to build a Catholic a school and you did it. Mm-hmm. And that's a big thing. That's a massive thing. And you sort of explained the catalyst for it was, the numbers and how that worked. But really you had to make yourself that decision because that decision, you being the catalyst for this thing and driving it forward. And it's not, and I appreciate it's not just you.
Yep.
There's a bunch of people that were integral to this, but you had to understand this was not just you, it was your wife, it was your family. Yep. Everybody had to be on board.
Yep. Ton of sacrifices.
Yes.
Along the way.
And to make that to make that decision and say, listen, you know what? And I would imagine I'm going to live or die by this thing here. It's got to, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Once we were in, there was no turning back. When you start collecting money from people, it's like, okay, we
got to do it.
We got to make this happen now, And we had COVID right in the middle of it.
Yeah. And
we had, I think we had 3 or 4 grades at our school that were up and running already in our temporary location.
When did you put the sign up? The sign that you were building the school, was it like 2020, 21?
No, it might have been, it would have been the first sign would have been before that because it would have been 2017 when the school, because we've got a picture of that original grad class when you're in grade 8 standing in front of that sign.
Okay.
So,
you just start and then COVID hits.
And then COVID hits a couple of years in and kids were all at home learning. And I'm like, are we even going to be building schools anymore? Are all kids going to be learning from home now? Like what's going to happen? Like what have we started that might not finish? Like, is education changing? We just had no idea, but turns out that was not going to happen because kids were floundering at home. Some kids were doing fine, but others were just like, what a disaster. So
you know what? Like I'm sorry I'm laughing here. Because I always harken back to my experience.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna go to school at home.
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't
have worked for you.
It wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry, and I appreciate those that have homeschooled.
Yeah.
I get that. Yeah. I understand that, and I have full appreciation for that. And we all know people that have been homeschooled, and they've been they're contributing. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. But for me, no, it's like working from home.
Yeah.
During COVID, like I was going crazy. I there's only so much I could take. Yeah. I'm not that guy.
Yeah. For a couple of weeks, it was like, and then it's like, okay, now
what am I doing?
Let's get back at it.
Yeah, that's right. and it was even like I look at it. I remember I liken this to, spring break or holidays.
Yeah.
When are you going back to school?
Yeah. Yes.
This is tiring.
Exactly.
Why are you here? Yeah. But I couldn't imagine having to stay on top. And then you've got, you tie that in with, you have, both parents working.
Yeah.
You've got your kids at home.
Yeah.
That was, and it's hard to believe that was 6 years ago now, right? That all started.
Yeah.
And we've kind of, because of the age that we live in, I wouldn't say we've forgotten about it, but
no, but it's still, we're still suffering repercussions.
Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah.
1,000%. There's so much, because everything happened. Like if you would have said to me prior to that would have happened and that we would have things would have shut down. Everything. I wouldn't have believed you.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have believed that we would have done the things that we did. I mean that. And I didn't know that I've said this before on this podcast, that the earth, in my mind, stopped turning on its axis.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It just stopped. And okay, well, what do we do now? You know, like, am I going to see people like keeling over on the sidewalk?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And that actually, that whole episode precipitated us getting rid of cable TV too.
Yeah.
Which was not a bad.
Yeah.
We
didn't get cable. We just moved to a new place, and we don't have cable.
Don't need it.
Yeah.
And you know, you come, you know, watching CNN and the body count and going, well, there's something wrong with this here.
Yeah. It
was crazy. It was Looney Tunes.
That's a whole other podcaster.
Yeah, it is.
For like don't you get me started on it.
What
Needless to say, it held up because the cities, the municipalities, they closed down too.
Yeah.
You couldn't get anything done in the cities, so that caused massive delays as well.
When were you originally supposed to? Oh, when was the school scheduled originally to open?
About probably would have been okay. From the time we started, we had really high hopes. We actually started classes a year sooner than what we had anticipated, but we got into our new campus years later than what we anticipated. We probably thought 3 years earlier before we, that we could be able to get into our new campus. But there's so many logistical issues with, and being a builder as well, and having done development. The amount of time it takes things to get through the city is just astronomically slow. There's so much red tape right now. And from city planning to, city planning, engineering, which you have to have engineering, I get that. The green initiatives, which are over the top right now. And I don't think they're going to make a lick of difference into terms of what, there's always incentive to do better and build better and build more efficient and, and try and, build a product that's more efficient, that's more energy efficient and what have you. But some of the stuff right now has just gone over the top. And people say, well, why does it cost so much to build a home now? When I was started building, a wall cavity, an exterior wall cavity would have been like 6 inches thick. And now sometimes they're 12, 13 inches, 14 inches thick.
Why?
Like, just trying to keep the heat in and the cold out. Like it's over the top and engineering wise. It's when you look at other homes that have been standing for over 100 years and they're still there and everything's fine with them. Now you can make them more efficient, energy efficient, but today it's just, they want you to be able to heat your house with a candle.
What's driven this?
So
what's they like?
Wow.
What's been the impetus of this?
Ideology.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Anytime there's something big like this, that's, somebody's getting rich off of it. And you can go in with all of the best of intentions. It sounds great on paper. And we all got to do this. Let's all do it's World Earth Day today. And all these kids are out taking the day off high school to go and march as they're, not looking at all of the, especially in the West, all of the things that they enjoy on a day-to-day basis that they would never give up. And none of them are green. As defined by, what is green today. So, but there's organizations getting really wealthy off it, including different sects of the government that are getting, so I mean, that's my opinion. That's my theory.
Mine too.
Yeah. Is it?
It doesn't change.
Nothing like a good crisis to create a few new billionaires.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And never not take advantage of a crisis.
Yeah.
And we had that. I never thought that, like, I like him. I like think back and, in the grocery store being told that there was toilet paper.
Yeah.
There's toilet paper. How did we run out of toilet paper?
Yeah, exactly.
you know,
All of a sudden,
we don't have a shortage of nothing. Like, what do we have a shortage of? Common sense is what we have a shortage of.
Yeah.
And I certainly so back to the school, talking about the school, like the vision, the vision of the, like, what was this solely, and this is probably I don't know, it's to sound like an egotistical question. The vision for this actual reality of the school, was that yours?
I started the vision. Yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say I started the vision. I probably influenced it to go in the direction that it did in terms of the facility that we have today. Like, we visited 8 different schools before we started our own architecture on the school to get ideas of, what's working, what's not working, not just, especially in newly built schools, interviewing teachers and saying, okay, what's great, but tell us what they missed. Like, what's, little things like storage, One of the schools we visited had this incredible new arts wing, this band room, which was incredible. And we're like, wow, this is great. Would you do anything differently? And it's like, yeah, there's no place to put drums and trombones and, like, okay, so storage was something that was missed. So we're like, okay, note to self. So another great functions in different schools, St. Thomas More's, they had a fantastic courtyard in the back. And I don't know if you saw our courtyard when you were there, but we thought, that is a great place for functions, especially in the shoulder seasons. And so we want to have a big courtyard to be able to host events and stuff there outside. And so Notre Dame is a newly built Catholic school in Vancouver. And we visited other schools as well. They weren't just Catholic schools, just to find out what was. And then when we originally started, we were thinking, okay, maybe 600 students, or 500 or 600 students is somewhere where we're going to be. And because we had a limited amount of space too. And I'm used to building really nice things for people. And so I know we spent more money than we had to in terms of building a building. But one of the beauties, we wanted to be able to inspire kids. And to inspire kids is to start off by their surroundings need to be inspirational. So even the kids, when they come into our school right now and they see it for the first time, they're impressed. They're like, this is amazing. This is incredible. And that's your first draw. And it's the same thing, Bishop Barron says this, when you go into a cathedral, an old, cathedral, and you see it and how they spent not tens of years or several years, sometimes over 100 years building these things. And the architecture is just mind-blowing.
Go to Rome.
Yeah. And you think, okay, why did they do that? Why is that? But, in the tip of the spear in evangelizing is beauty. And when you walk into one of these cathedrals and you see it, you're like, wow, right away you're drawn in just because of that. Now, our school is not one of these cathedrals, but we did more, and I'd say a lot more than what you would see in a typical high school to make it one of those inspiring buildings. It was just an inspiring piece of architecture that people just feel that they want to be a part of in it. So
there was thought.
There was a lot of thought that went into that, and I think we achieved our goal in that regard. I know, like I said, we spent a lot more money, but we weren't thinking in the terms of, okay, 30 years or something down the road. We ended up building bigger. We'll be able to, when the school's fitted out inside, we'll be able to have up to 900 kids.
I read that.
Yeah. And then we started thinking, well, let's look towards the next 100 years, not, the next 30 years. Like Vancouver College downtown, they celebrated 100 years in business a few years ago. So, which is great. And that's why I think we built something that, we can grow into and that can inspire for many, many years to come.
What lessons did you, aside from the bureaucracy that you had to deal with from the city's perspective, but and I don't. You're a builder, okay? But what lessons did you take from this? Because you always have to. You're learning all the time.
Yeah.
And taking on a project this size, and I'll use my own. I built a building in Winnipeg.
Mm-hmm.
And they named the building after me because I was stupid enough to think that I could be the, who's going to be the project manager, and I would be being the idiot that I was. Well, me. No, you're not. Yeah. Yeah, and it was a 16,000 square foot, three-story building that we bought because we had to move the business operation from downtown Winnipeg, and I had to buy a building and gut it and all this kind of thing. And I learned a lot about something that I really didn't want to do. And and in order to know what you really want to do, you got to do what you dislike.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you find out you don't like that. And I realized that I wasn't a builder. Like I didn't. And when it was done, it was like, I never want to do this again. But the thing that I did learn some lessons though.
Yeah.
And and I think I'm wiser because of them.
Yeah. So
I'm asking you the same question, taking on a project this size and doing this. And this isn't like, you're not building a house.
No. I mean, construction-wise, I grew up in the commercial world, so I knew some of it. I understood it. It wasn't foreign to me, that type of construction. But the biggest lesson I think that I learned, well, I kind of knew this going into it, but I had no idea how big of a project this was going to be. This is one of those ones that if you knew how big it was going to be and how taxing it would be, you probably wouldn't have done it. But nothing worth doing is easy. Like literally nothing worth doing is easy. So you can convince yourself, that it was, but it wasn't. It absolutely wasn't. And I tell even our students, grade 12s graduating, when you leave here, you're not. It's all gonna be up to you in terms of what you do, and don't expect the easy road because it's not going to happen. You're not entitled to anything. If you want something, you got to go out there and get it. And nothing worth doing is easy. That was a big lesson because that's kind of an overarching lesson, and just kind of a life lesson. The biggest thing I got out of it was, a reversion to my faith because I grew up Catholic, and after going through university, going to a real secular school at UBC, and kind of finding my way in life. I mean, we're not bombarded with Catholicism and faith. We're bombarded with everything but that out there in the real world. So we floundered around a little bit, and I'm very grateful for my wife and my two kids and my extended family, because as this project grew, so did my reversion back to my faith. I just found there's so much out there that just doesn't matter. Like it really doesn't. We're out there chasing the dollar or chasing fame or whatever you're chasing, and we all have a God, but be careful who you pick, who you're worshiping in that regard. So the reversion to my faith is probably the biggest thing that I got out of it. And then seeing how that's happening with the kids in our school, then I walk around and I see kids in the school and my heart is full instantly. I'm like, we've arrived, we've done it, and they're using it, Now we just got to fill it. We got to finish off some spaces in the school. There's still lots of money to raise. There's a lot of work to do still, but nothing's easy, my friend.
Was there, we were on that side of things, were there ever times where you were questioning
everything?
Yeah. What am I doing?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. There was several times going throughout it that I was just like, and all it took was good because I gave up a lot, even my career wise. I just, so much time I put into school. It was a true, it became a passion, a labor of love, if you want to call it that. I think that's probably a good description. And, but yeah, so many, it's like, does anybody care about this, what we're doing? Because we're sacrificing so much, and not just me, like you said, there's a team that we put together of people, because I don't know, I'm not an educator, I'm not a teacher. I didn't do any of that kind of stuff. And here we are building a school, and there's no manual for building a school like this. Like, there isn't anything. A parent-led initiative to build a new Catholic high school. Well, that doesn't exist before. So
there's not a book for that.
No. So we're kind of inventing this as we go. And but the fulfillment that's coming out of it, because this school is going to be there long after I'm gone. And I guess that's probably the biggest thing that gives me it's the most fulfilling thing outside of having a family, this project that I've done. Because I think, making a difference in people's lives, when you actually see that happening and knowing that will continue to happen going forward, that's huge. Not everybody gets to experience that.
Well, it's certainly it certainly put you in the eyes of the community now. Okay, as there's not many people that I don't think I've ever met a person that's been the driving force for building a school.
Well, I'm sure there's bigger things and
no,
stuff,
but seriously, I'm being serious. Not to bullshit. I'm just saying. I'm saying that because it's not something that someone does. Unless it is a labor of love or you're passionate about it, and you actually did it. And it is, and having seen the facility, it's pretty darn nice, but nice is nice. Okay, what it's the kids that go through that, what they become, and building community, all those kinds of things, which I think, and I speak for myself, there's a little bit of lack of the community aspect of things. But what is the one thing that I hope it does encourage is others to see what can be done.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Big things. Think big.
Yeah. Things can be done. Things can change.
Yep.
We're going, I say this a lot myself. And it's usually when I'm driving down Highway 99 and I'm in traffic and, getting caught mid-span in the tunnel and wondering if anybody cares.
Yeah.
Does anybody care? Does anybody care?
No.
Am I the only one?
Yeah.
Like, does anybody care? And what I've thoroughly enjoyed talking to you, Troy, is that you do care. You've shown that you care because you did this. And it's not something that was easy. But if it's that old saying that if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Yep.
It ain't easy. It ain't easy.
Nope.
And now if there was, and I'll close on this, leadership.
Yep.
What leadership? What lessons did you learn from a leadership perspective? Because you were leading a group of people.
Yeah.
Obviously there's a religious component to this, but you're leading a group of people.
Yep.
And they have to believe. Like, and when you don't believe, when the leader doesn't believe, it becomes quite evident.
Yeah.
And it's more difficult. And it goes back to you saying, well, just imagine this.
Yeah.
Like just, we haven't built it yet, but just imagine we're going to have a school here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what, from that perspective, like from a leadership perspective, did you come away with anything that really resonated with you? Appreciating
everybody that you're working with, because we did nothing but recruit people, and for our boards, building committee, other subcommittees and groups that were put together for raising money for this and that, our galas, our golf tournaments, all that kind of stuff. Like, you have to get so many people involved, and appreciating those people, because not everybody, you don't get along with everybody, but you have to get along with everybody in a leadership position. And not everybody's cut out for that.
Yeah.
And but when you're appreciating somebody saying thank you, goes a hell of a long way.
Mm-hmm.
And a genuine thank you. And one of the ways I realized that is because on those days when I was saying, like, what am I doing? All it took was one parent to come up to me and go, Troy, thank you for what you're doing with this school. And then I was just pumped again. I'm like,
Feels your heart.
okay, here we go. Away we go. Yeah, that's why we're doing this. You know, there's people that actually appreciate what we're doing here. And so when with the people that you're working with, whether it's parents, volunteers, or hired employees that are working on the project, to sit there and say, hey, thank you for doing what you do, because you're playing a part in this whole project, and it wouldn't happen without you. So
on that note, if people that are listening or watching wanted to find out more information about St. John Paul II Academy, where would they go?
sjp2academy.com.
Just have a look.
Yep.
And you're on 20. You're on 24th.
24th and the new 182nd that we built, and 183rd. We're between the two new streets that we paid for.
That you paid for.
Yeah, and here's something unique right now too, because even if your kids are in grade 3 or grade 4, you can actually put an enrollment deposit in early. That $25,000, you can put it in early, and reserve a spot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you'll have priority over other families if you put that in now, because you're helping fund the school early. So we're encouraging that, and there's quite a sense of urgency that's being created now as more people come and see our facility and learn more about it.
And it's also not, if you don't have the financial wherewithal too, there's other ways to get into the school too.
Yep.
So
exactly. So we encourage you to come anyway, and we're always doing tours. So if you want to come in and book a tour, just if you want to see the school, we're happy to take you around. And
well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Troy, you've become a community leader now. You have.
I appreciate that.
You have. You've built a school, and that obviously pales in comparison to the family that you've built. Your family's the most important thing, but you've done this, and it's taken a long time, and it's a labor of love. And it is a beautiful facility.
Yeah.
It's very nice. It's very nice, and I thank you so much for coming out and spending the afternoon here.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I appreciate it.
And I'm sure we'll be talking again.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
You may be asking yourself, what's any of this got to do with me? Absolutely nothing. Until next time.